Buenos días a todos y a todas. Hello to everyone. En primer lugar, me gustaría dar las gracias al comité de organizador por aceptar mi propuesta y darme la oportunidad de hablar sobre mi tema. Mi intervención será en inglés. That's why I'm going to switch to English now, and I'm going to start presenting my screen so you can see it now, I hope. And today my topic is graphic novel and comics as a queer pedagogical tool addressing LGBTQ plus phobia through Heartstopper, the graphic novel that we'll discuss later on, that was written by Alice Osman. And today I would like to talk about these main topics, right? So that would be my points. First, I will give a small introduction. Then I'll go to the graphic novel as a queer pedagogical tool and also argument why comics can also consider in these terms. Then I'll address through Heartstopper LGBT phobia, why this graphic novel is a perfect suit for that. Then I'll give my conclusions and I'll show my citations. So let's get started and let's begin with an introduction. The realization of all minorities in the classroom is an essential basis for the construction of inclusive and just society where anyone can be respected and seen. Schools have a tremendous impact on shaping and forming the mentality of a conscious citizen of the country. Therefore, the classroom should be used to shape the value that would promote equality and tolerance within the society, especially toward the minority, in our case, the LGBTQ plus community that has been stigmatized for a long time. The inclusion of LGBTQ plus related themes to the curriculum could help to visualize the silenced community and also give voice to students who belong to it, an opportunity for them to be noticed, talked about, and most importantly, understood. The English literature or English as a second language classes could be considered as a great feed for this purpose, as students are able to explore various topics related to the LGBTQ plus community through the text and obtain a space for discussion. Furthermore, the inclusion of diverse text could also be seen as a part of language learning, as it is written in a foreign language, where some cultural notions are portrayed that in turn enhances students' language acquisition. Nevertheless, some tools might suit better than others whilst talking about such sensitive topics, with a final aim to establish a constructive dialogue. Graphic novels, but also comics, which will be justified later on, could be seen as a great source of queer pedagogy, as they promote language interaction due to being more dynamic and visually appealing. Moreover, some graphic novels and comics were adopted into the series of movies that create an additional interest for students especially. And Heartstopper, that was published in 2019, the specific volumes that can be used, and was written by Alice Osman, could be seen as a great case for queer pedagogy. To see how it's first essential to understand how it can be useful, right? That's why we need to see how graphic novels and comics as well can be used as queer pedagogical tool. To start with, I would like to talk about some important statistics. According to Eurostat, in 2022, 52.8% of the EU population who were aged 16 or more said they read books in the last 12 months. So in this case, we can see that there is a dynamic that still, yes, teenagers and young adults, they read books. So that's important, right? Because then we can include it. And as for the internet in 2021, again, according to Eurostat, 95% of young people aged 16 to 25 years in the EU, they used internet on daily basis, and 83% of young people, again, the same age, in the European Union, used the internet to participate in social networks. So 4/5, right, of the total who were interviewed. And the most common or the top most used social media among European young people were Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. It's according to the Eurobarometer. And it could be interpreted that young people in Europe enjoy having more interactive content than reading, and they engage in social media where pictures in motion are predominant. In fact, those social networks are famous for their use of pictures, right? Like Instagram, where you can post any picture or even an hour short video. So it leads us to believe that this type of educational content could be viewed as something more appealing to students, that's more helpful to use in the classroom, to teach students about LGBTQ plus topics through literary works that are also read, right, by adults. In fact, the combination of this picture and text in the literature somewhat already exists, and it's called the graphic novel or comics, right? And that's important now to distinguish, right? It seems that they sometimes use interchangeably. However, there's some differences. And according to the Library of Congress, comic books are serialized stories, mostly short in length, and the story they contain and continue over months and sometimes years. And graphic novels, in its case, tend to be much more longer than the comic book, and also usually have their storyline wrapped in one or two books. So it's possible to say that the main difference actually lies within the length of the story, yet the format is quite similar, right? It's sequential art full of panels and speech bubbles, which is used to narrate a story itself. So as the form is similar, the benefits of both the comics and graphic novels, they overlap in educational setting and they can be used, right? That's why the research for this paper on comics was also included. To comprehend the use of the comics, why it can be actually used in the educational setting, it's important to see, right, what is behind them, right? So how they are defined by scholars. According to the Tude, comics might be defined as a hybrid word and image form in which two narrative tracks, one verbal and one visual, register temporally, spatially. And according to MacLeod, he writes in their book that comics panels fracture both time and space, offering a jagged staccato, a rhythm of unconnected moments. By closure, allows us to connect those moments, mentally construct a continuous, unified reality. So it's different, right, realities, let's say, different speciality in which they connect together, right, and in this way, the novel is created. And again, as another advantage, Hillary she wrote in their work that as a form, comics differ from the cartoons, since cartoons are single panel in ages, while both forms often involve a similar visual verbal punch. Comics usually unfolding over multiple frames carries a different narrative push. And it could be considered to interpret that by incorporating particular features, comics could be narrate a story in different, perhaps a more efficient way, even than the motion picture itself, like cartoon, and brings back to the point that the impact of the story. So now that we know how they are organized and they have these different realities, and after done some scrupulous studies, analysis of other scholars on the comics and graphic novels, here are some important things to consider why it can be actually a great pedagogical tool, and especially mainly queer one. For the sake of time, I'll not read everything, just leave it here so some people can see, but I'd like to mention that first of all, it's developing writing skills, it's improving learners' reading comprehension, increased vocabulary, better linguistic intelligence also increased, construct knowledge in multiple modalities, students develop a better creativity, thinking in a creativity way, critical thinking, imagination, motivation. Also, the comics in general are more effective, engaging, and also they bring this a better understanding of written content and help to master and develop an emotional intelligence or empathy in general. Now, why it's important to include LGBTQ plus topics into curricula. So, according to the European Union Agency on Fundamental Rights, unfortunately, there were around 80 people who recalled, young people, right, at school, who recalled negative comments or bullying, at school, or 2 out of 3 hid and disguised being LGBT at school. So this is a tremendous number, unfortunately, and because of that, it seems that they hide, right? And it seems that the problem doesn't exist, it's invisible. Yes, however, it's not the case, right? They hide because they are not protected. There is no a safe space where they can be themselves, and hence they cannot just show who they are, because schools are not, they don't protect that use. That's why it's better to not create a post-bullying policy rather than creating a before policy, a pre-policy that would advocate for those students, that would help them to integrate, and for other learners as well, right? So they can engage in the dialogue and understand them better, and maybe the bullying will disappear. However, in the European Union, I quote the European School Education Platform that state, although sexuality education is mandatory in 19 EU countries, its content varies greatly. For example, sexual orientation, LGBTI issues are included in 16 countries and gender roles in 10. So there is no general approach in the whole union about this topic, so it's hard to decide what can be there and what they teach, and in the end they don't create an inclusive environment for all people. There are also some advantages actually in why we need to include LGBTQ plus topics or characters that are presented in the books. Some of them, like they affirm diversity of the identities. They cultivate this, again, empathy, right, that we saw before. They can serve as a catalyst for social change, and also they can bring this influence on social attitudes toward LGBTQ plus individuals, as the rapport between the comics, the graphic novels, is established between students and the story itself, so it enhances the visibility and representation in general. And in the end, we can conclude that graphic novels and comics, they function as engaging and effective educational tools, helping students grasp complex and abstract concepts, embracing critical engagement to explore the topic deeper and get emotionally attached, leading to empathy rather than rejection. Present alternative models of narratives and the interpretation, fostering more inclusive understanding of identity, power, and social discourse, as well as challenging binary thinking, heteronormity, especially when LGBTQ plus topics are involved. Demonstrate that the flexibility of visual storytelling makes it easier to explore real-life scenarios, making abstract concept and marginalized experience more relatable. That's why graphic novels, comics is a perfect, I would say, and argue a queer pedagogical tool. Now, how we can address LGBTQ plus phobia by using the Heartstopper. So LGBTQ plus phobia unfortunately exists. We've seen before, there were some statistics, unfortunately, and statistic continues. I leave it here so students can read, but I would like to say that only 8% were open about being LGBT at school. So this is a very little amount that, again, enhances that idea that doesn't exist, the problem, right? But because it's not safe space. And why bullying exists? Because probably of prejudices, some stereotypes, right, that are within the society. For example, the most common stereotypes about sports, right, that in sports, LGBTQ plus people, they don't play. Usually they have to hide themselves. And there are some also unfortunate statistics, according to Out on the Field, 80% of participants have witnessed or experienced homophobia in sports, with homophobic language was the most common. And that's where comes Heartstopper. Because in the Heartstopper, they talk about these ideas, and as it was mentioned before, it's written by Alice Osman, who is an English author. She published other books, but her famous work is Heartstopper. It's a romantic story of Charlie and Nick that describe essential LGBTQ plus issues. And in their novels, they fall in love, right? The two teenage boys, Nick and Charlie, and they meet at a British grammar schools, and they quickly become friends. And each volume navigates their ups and downs, the first love, friendship, coming up, mental health, beautiful framed by a warm cast of supporting characters. This is according to Osman. So we can see there is some interest in culture, not just like a grammar school for students to learn. And actually, there are also a bunch amount of LGBTQ plus topics. For instance, that Nick, he is an athlete, right? He falls in love with Charlie, so now he is in sports, and because we saw the statistics, he probably also afraid to come out, right? So this is one of the issues that is addressed and how we can talk about it, right? Coming out is another problem because he cannot come out. Maybe he's afraid. Also, he is scared to come out not only to himself, right, but to his family. And that brings us to another topic. We're questioning one's sexuality, right? We think what can happen when they come out. So they're not sure, maybe they're distressed about this. So this is a great chance by using Heartstopper to address those topics and establish a constructive dialogue at the in the classroom so students can learn about it, emphasize, and LGBTQ plus students could feel they are there, discuss. Teachers can be this medium to bring up the ideas, support them, and for other students, they can discuss these issues and understand what's actually happening. So to conclude, I'd like to say that this paper has shown that a graphic novel can be seen as a great career pedagogical tool to discuss LGBTQ plus topics and what impact students can have. LGBTQ plus students are still at risk of being mistreated verbally and physically, and unfortunately they deny basic opportunities to be themselves at school, which are not a safe space until this moment. So we need to foster a healthy nation, and to do this we need start by eliminating discrimination around the world. Teachers should emphasize and embrace the role of change makers and make their classroom and schools a safe place to discuss all issues and give visibility to those whose voices are silent. It's possible to do it by using the queer pedagogical tools such as graphic novels and comics, and I believe they play an essential role in this. And graphic novels and comics are a suitable way to teach about LGBTQ plus issues as they are engaging, efficient, and effective. They can also promote and develop different skills in students while they interact with them with the story. And the Heartstopper by Alice Osman could have this long-lasting effect due to its memorable and engaging story that was actually adapted into the series, which is also very fascinating and well done. And it also portrays these common themes to young adults that can serve this bridgehead for further discussion of LGBTQ plus issues and problems that members of the community may face. I would like to say thank you for your time and like to show you my citations, and I hope you have a wonderful day.